Hi, my name is Nick Henderson. I am the Grand Fromage here at Fourth Wall Down Theater Collective. Been told before by directors that I am the type of actor where if I'm giving a monologue, I need to have a pebble in my shoe because I always need a problem to solve. And that's served me fairly well as a producer because I'm always looking for a new way to present the story, a truer way to present the story, and a truer experience for the audience to have. I started a theater company a few years back which performed exclusively in bars and pubs and other drinking establishments, and because I thought that's sort of the unofficial pastime of St. Louis. And the concept with that was sort of to appreciate the Dionysian approach to theater, sort of the rambunctious, let's go party, and slipping in there a little Apollonian, slipping in a little concept and a little methodic, how do we get this story across? And from that, it just sort of grew. We had eked out a niche, and even within that concept, we wanted to explore St. Louis because I think St. Louis can be a very compartmentalized city. So one of our shows, Midsummer Night's Pub Crawl 5x5 Bars, was in 3 different neighborhoods for a total of 15 venues. And what we found was that audiences really enjoyed being able to explore their city in a new way and explore the spaces in a theatrical fashion that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to experience. And we realized that we were sort of compartmentalizing ourselves. We were saying that these were the types of shows that we were going to do exclusively. And we realized that that wasn't fair to us and it wasn't fair to our audience. So we expanded. And what we're really trying for this season is a lot of social justice theater, a lot of concepts whose time has come that we can really examine and take a deeper look at while still entertaining in a approachable manner. So keeping the lively approachability of a pub crawl theater, but finding intimate spaces to explore deep, intimate concepts with our audience, alongside our audience. The mission of Fourth Wall Down, the short answer would be to do good theater. But that, of course, is a very complicated endeavor, and it depends on what your individual definition of good theater is. I think The Drowning Girls was a great introduction for us back to the St. Louis audience, as well as our concept for installation theater. Installation theater specifically meant making a set that follows the rules of gallery art, as well as commenting on performance art, which is part of the reason that I put myself into the show, exploring the differences and commonalities. Gallery art form that really celebrates ego and celebrates personal catharsis, that you're supposed to appreciate each brushstroke, each catharsis that the artist, why did they make that momentary choice? And of course, we have that in theater too. Why did they make that inflection? Why did they cross to that side of the stage? But in theater, we're most often asked to see the character, not the artist, look at it with a soft eye. And I think what makes Fourth Wall Down really interesting is how we can take many different concepts and weave it into one experience. It was really interesting to experiment with that and people's definitions, that there are rules that separate these art forms, and what we found through installation theater is that most of those are just in the mind of whoever's watching it. And I think The Drowning Girls was a great opportunity for that because of its contemporary nature. It presents a non-linear storyline, and while the audience is bouncing back and forth, trying to figure out the story, we get them in a receptive state. We get them to suspend their disbelief. And if we can get them to suspend their disbelief and at the same time appreciate each brushstroke, either on the set or up in the gallery, or from each of the actors, each moment choice that the actors make, If we can get them to do those two opposing things at the same time, I think that's where really good art lives, is when you can accept dichotomy and then allow that to grow to more than just ones and zeros linear thinking. It's 1 + 1 = 2, which is a very human concept. While the audience is in this receptive state, we can anchor their focus on social issues, and by partnering with local nonprofits that affect people in our community, in the audience's community, they feel like they have a vested interest themselves in the story that we're telling, in the morals that we're trying to show, in the concepts that we're exploring, long after they leave the theater for the 84 minutes that the play goes on. I always enjoy theater that allows for the audience's interpretation of the piece, that leaves something up to them. I like theater that presents questions more than answers. Just like if you're directing a play, you ask your actors a lot of questions when you're in rehearsal so that they can come up with the answers themselves, because then it has more of an impact on their ego, on their subconscious, on their concept of what that art piece can be. So we also partnered with Artists First, which is a really great program in St. Louis that provides mentorship and materials to artists with disabilities. Context can lend meaning to art, it can lend value to art, and I think we did a pretty good job of curating art that all had stories behind the art. Just like in theater, how moving through the play becomes the final catharsis of the play. That we've worked for a month and a half putting this show together, and then that moment is like a sand painting that it can blow away in an instant. The impression that it leaves on the audience is really the end product. The performance is more the act of instilling concepts into the audience's mind. I don't know that we really want to separate ourselves from other theater companies. We kind of want to be a facilitator. In our first season, we actually brought a show down from Chicago, 50 Shades of Shakespeare, down from Rediscover Theater. And we have a few other companies in town that are sort of asking us to do venue scouting. I really believe in the collaborative effort, rising the tide that lifts all ships. We don't really have to answer to anybody. As an independent theater company, we really just answer to ourselves. That gives us a freedom that some of the larger companies just really, it's not practical for them to have. Are exacting standards. I myself am a union member. You can still have fun with theater. It can be campy, it can be silly, but you can still take pride in the craft. Again, I don't know if that separates us from other theater companies, because St. Louis is actually having a renaissance in art right now, and especially from some of the smaller theater companies. Devised theater has become a really big thing in St. Louis. What we kind of wanted to do with The Drowning Girls was to present a scripted piece with the feel and the heart of a devised theater piece, that we had put so much of ourselves into it, and we really did sort of transform the script, I think still being respectful to the playwrights and their original intent, but really put our own spin on it. That you can come and see theater in a new venue every weekend, that you can come and explore your city with us. We will take you to places that you might love, and you get to see them in a new light, or someplace that you haven't been before, exploring new, beautiful spaces, and really just having a positive effect on the zeitgeist of theater in St. Louis and just the city as a whole. As a compartmentalized city looking for its centralized identity, but maybe that is our identity, is that we are many things at once. The future of Fourth Wall Down, we're definitely going to keep pushing the envelope. We will hopefully be able to get some of the financial backing that we're looking for to be able to really achieve that. We just want to keep exploring. We want to keep trying to define ourselves and then grows so that we have to redefine ourselves, and then grows so that we have to redefine ourselves again, and presenting not just theater, but stories and concepts to our audience and fostering uncommon conversations about common concerns. I first saw The Drowning Girls in Houston. I was just struck by it. It has a really creative structure that isn't too heavy-handed. They balanced it extremely well. I really wanted to see if it was possible for us to present it in the round. A lot of things happened since then, and we found ourselves in this beautiful space of Wild Carrot, which is a wedding venue, which seemed really fitting. By the time we had gotten there, we were presenting in a very intimate way. And I think with this type of theater, you have the opportunity to show audience members a different experience. It hits you in a different way than going to go see a show at the Muni or the Shakespeare Festival in the park. It has an intimacy to it that is at times voyeuristic, at other times it just feels heartbreaking, and you feel yourselves falling into the characters. And again, that's a great place to place your audience in. You get them to an empathetic, receptive state, and you can really affect them in a way that they probably don't get in their everyday life. You can heighten the experience, which is what theater is all about. And I think this was a great opportunity to really showcase female agency, social norms that perpetuate cycles of abuse. Part of our concept was to partner with Alive STL, which does fantastic work around the community in St. Louis for domestic violence and women's advocacy, getting people to recognize the signs of abuse, whether it be physical or emotional. Without triggering too much, I think we played a very balanced show, that we were able to present the concept in an approachable way without being too Brechtian, without being too in your face. It makes it so that the audience can really experience it in a truer way.